would buy these records I was telling you about earlier. The teenager would buy records by Blind Lemon, and she bought jazz was beginning to creep in the area, like Charlie Christian, and then Riley B. King transformed himself into B.B. King, and through that transformation he became known as the king of blues music. His beloved guitar, which he named Lucille, produced sounds so powerful and moving that they could bring tears to the eyes of even the toughest listeners. Throughout a career spanning more than 7 decades, B.B. King fundamentally shaped what American music would become, taking individual notes and bending them until they expressed pure human emotion. B.B. King was never known for playing fast. Instead, he focused on playing with authenticity and truth. Each note he played served a specific purpose in the story he was telling. Every bend of a string conveyed meaning and feeling. His impact on music reached across generations and touched countless musicians, including famous artists like Eric Clapton and John Mayer, who openly acknowledged his influence on their own work. However, even someone as influential as B.B. King had his own musical heroes and inspirations. As a young man growing up, B.B. King listened to everything he could find. He absorbed sounds from church gospel music, electric blues, and the early days of rock and roll. He approached music like a dedicated student, carefully studying recordings to understand what made certain songs connect so deeply with listeners. For him, these albums were not simply sources of entertainment. They served as educational tools, demonstrating what music could achieve when performed with genuine soul and deep conviction. Masters of the blues understand something special about music. They can hear the emotion that exists beneath the actual notes being played. They feel the importance of the spaces between sounds, recognize the weight that silence can carry, and understand the power that comes from holding just one perfect note for exactly the right amount of time. When you examine the albums that B.B. King loved most, you discover a man who valued genuine feeling over flashy technical displays, who chose honesty over perfect execution. T-Bone Walker and the birth of electric blues, one of the earliest and most important influences on B.B. King, came from an album called T-Bone Blues. This recording represented the birthplace of electric blues music. Released during the early years of the 1950s, T-Bone Blues featured the pioneering work of T-Bone Walker, who was among the first to truly explore what the electric guitar could do for blues music. When B.B. King first heard these recordings, he immediately recognized that he was hearing his own future. B.B. King himself spoke about discovering T-Bone Walker, explaining how transformative that moment was for him. The sound of Walker playing completely changed his understanding of what was possible. Walker was the first guitarist to truly make the electric guitar sing blues music using amplification, not simply to play louder, but as a tool for emotional expression and artistic communication. The tone that Walker achieved was clean and sharp, while his playing style was smooth and sophisticated in ways that blues had not quite achieved before. Songs like Call It Stormy Monday and T-Bone Shuffle showed B.B. King what electric blues music could evolve into. Walker constructed single-note melodic lines that seemed to dance above the rhythm section, creating guitar solos that were both melodic and memorable. His vibrato technique was wide and deeply expressive. B.B. King studied every single note that T-Bone Walker played, learning techniques for making an electric guitar cry and moan in ways that resembled the human voice. The lessons that T-Bone Blues taught B.B. King were absolutely foundational to everything that came after. Walker demonstrated that an electric guitar was not simply a louder version of an acoustic guitar. It was actually a completely new instrument with its own distinct voice and its own unique possibilities for expression. B.B. King would eventually take Walker's innovations and push them even further, developing his own signature vibrato and tone. But everything started with T-Bone Walker showing him the path forward. Lonnie Johnson's sophisticated approach, another crucial influence, came from the collected works known as blues and ballads, which represented elegance within blues music. Lonnie Johnson recorded extensively throughout the 1920s and continued recording for decades beyond. His collection of blues and ballads showcased a guitarist who played with unusual sophistication and grace for his era. Johnson's technique was remarkably ahead of its time. He used single-string runs and incorporated jazz-influenced phrasing into his blues playing. B.B. King deeply admired how Johnson managed to make the guitar sound refined and educated without sacrificing any of its emotional power. Johnson was one of B.B. King's real favorites among early blues musicians. The important lesson that blues and ballads taught B.B. King was that blues guitar playing could be sophisticated and skilled. A musician could play with technical ability, and musical education without losing the heart and soul of the music itself. Johnson proved that blues was not a primitive or simple form of music. Instead, it was a legitimate art form that deserved respect and serious consideration. B.B. King carried this particular lesson throughout his entire career, always treating blues as serious music that was worthy of being performed in concert halls and prestigious venues rather than only in small clubs. Louis Jordan's joyful showmanship, the album Let the Good Times Roll, provided another important influence, though from a somewhat different direction. This album swung with infectious joy and energy. Louis Jordan was not strictly a blues musician, but his jump blues and rhythm and blues styles deeply influenced B.B. King's understanding of entertainment and showmanship. Released during the 1940s, Let the Good Times Roll featured Louis Jordan's saxophone leading energetic, danceable music that made people smile and feel happy. B.B. King learned an important lesson from blues: music could be fun. Music could lift people's spirits just as effectively as it could express pain and suffering. Jordan's band was tight and professional, playing with precision and energy that made audiences want to move. Songs like Kildonia and Saturday Night Fish Fry were witty and upbeat, telling stories with humor and strong rhythm. Jordan himself was a charismatic performer who truly understood how to work with audiences and give them what they wanted. B.B. King watched and learned from Jordan how to connect with crowds, how to entertain people while still remaining authentic and true to himself. What Louis Jordan taught B.B. King was fundamentally about performance and personality. Music was not just about playing your instrument well or hitting the right notes. It was about reaching people on an emotional level, making them feel something real, and giving them an experience they would remember. Jordan showed that blues musicians could be showmen without being phony or fake. B.B. King would eventually become famous for his warm stage presence and deep connection with audiences, lessons learned directly from Louis Jordan's joyful approach to performance. Muddy Waters' uncompromising power, the collection known as the Best of Muddy Waters, represented Chicago blues at its absolute most powerful. Muddy Waters took the Delta blues tradition from the South and brought it north to Chicago, where he plugged it into amplifiers and created a sound that was both electrifying and primal. His best recordings from the 1950s showed B.B. King what amplified blues music could truly become. Muddy Waters' voice was deep and commanding, carrying natural authority. His slide guitar work was raw and hypnotic, creating sounds that seemed to come from someplace deep and ancient. The band that played with him performed with an intensity that felt almost dangerous at times. The crucial lesson that Muddy Waters taught B.B. King was about authenticity and strength of conviction. Muddy Waters never compromised his sound or his vision. He never softened his approach to gain wider commercial acceptance. He stayed absolutely true to his Delta roots while simultaneously creating something new and modern. B.B. King deeply respected that artistic integrity. Although he personally chose a somewhat smoother path for his own career, he always honored Muddy Waters' uncompromising approach to blues music. They took different roads, but headed toward the same ultimate destination, which was truth in music. Nat King Cole's sophisticated vocal style, the Nat King Cole Story compilation, represented smoothness personified. Nat King Cole was both a jazz pianist and a singer whose warm voice and sophisticated style significantly influenced how B.B. King approached singing. The compilation showed Cole's evolution from being primarily a jazz instrumentalist to becoming a popular vocalist. B.B. King carefully studied Nat King Cole's phrasing, paying attention to how he sang with both clarity and emotion, how he made every single word matter without ever straining his voice or shouting. As a teenager buying records, B.B. King would invest in Nat King Cole recordings to study his technique. Cole's voice had a quality like velvet, but it always carried genuine feeling beneath the smooth surface. Songs like Unforgettable and Mona Lisa demonstrated how to be smooth without being slick, how to be commercially successful without being cheap or selling out. Cole sang with dignity and class at all times. B.B. King admired how Nat King Cole managed to cross over to mainstream success while maintaining complete artistic integrity. Cole proved that black artists could succeed in any musical arena without compromising who they were. What Nat King Cole taught B.B. King was fundamentally about vocal control and careful phrasing. B.B. King applied the lessons he learned from Cole to both his singing and his guitar playing. Just as Cole never wasted a word when singing, B.B. King learned never to waste a note when playing. Economy and precision became defining characteristics of B.B. King's musical style. Cole demonstrated that less could actually be more, that restraint was its own form of power. Charlie Christian's jazz guitar innovation, Solo Flight, represented jazz guitar reaching entirely new heights. Charlie Christian revolutionized what could be done with the electric guitar during the early 1940s, playing with Benny Goodman's band as well as smaller groups. The album Solo Flight captured Christian's innovative single-note lines and his distinctive swing feel. B.B. King was amazed by Charlie Christian's fluidity and creativity as a guitarist. Christian played the electric guitar like it was a horn instrument, creating long melodic phrases that swung with absolutely perfect timing. His solos were sophisticated and swinging, incorporating jazz harmonies and bebop ideas even before bebop officially existed as a recognized style. Christian made the electric guitar a legitimate lead instrument in jazz music, proving it could hold its own alongside saxophones and trumpets. B.B. King studied Christian's technique carefully, examining his use of amplification and his melodic sensibility. Although blues and jazz were different musical forms, the underlying principles were remarkably similar. What Charlie Christian taught B.B. King was about possibility and innovation. Christian showed that the electric guitar was still being invented, that its potential was essentially unlimited and waiting to be explored. B.B. King absorbed Christian's melodic approach, learning to construct guitar solos that told coherent stories rather than simply running up and down scales. Charlie Christian died tragically young, but his influence lived on forever through guitarists like B.B. King, who carried his innovations into blues music. Django Reinhardt's triumph over adversity. The best of Django Reinhardt represented genius overcoming tremendous limitations. Django Reinhardt was a gypsy jazz guitarist who lost the use of two fingers in a terrible fire, yet still managed to become one of history's greatest guitarists. His best recordings from the 1930s and 40s showcased breathtaking speed, remarkable creativity, and deep emotion. B.B. King was inspired both by Django's personal story and by his incredible music. Django proved conclusively that physical disability could not stop someone with true talent and determination. What Django Reinhardt taught B.B. King was fundamentally about perseverance and finding an individual voice. Django could have given up completely after suffering his injury. Instead, he invented entirely new ways to play the guitar that worked with his physical limitations. B.B. King faced his own significant obstacles as a black musician working in segregated America during the mid-20th century. Django's example showed him that barriers could be overcome with sufficient passion and creativity. The lesson was to find your own unique voice and let nothing silence it. Ray Charles' Breaking Musical Boundaries, the album called The Genius of Ray Charles, broke every musical boundary that existed, released in 1959. This album featured Ray Charles mixing gospel, blues, jazz, and pop music into something truly revolutionary. Ray Charles accomplished what many people thought was impossible, bringing the powerful feeling of church music into secular, non-religious contexts. B.B. King deeply admired Ray Charles' courage and creativity. Ray sang with raw, unfiltered emotion, his voice capable of conveying both joy and pain with equal power. His piano playing was equally expressive and emotional. The album moved between big band jazz arrangements and intimate blues performances, showcasing Ray's incredible versatility as an artist. Songs like Let the Good Times Roll and Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying demonstrated Ray's remarkable range and depth. He could swing hard with an upbeat number or break your heart with a ballad. B.B. King studied how Ray Charles made everything his own, how he stamped his personality on every song regardless of what style it was originally written in. What Ray Charles taught B.B. King was about breaking rules and mixing different styles together. Ray showed that gospel feeling belonged everywhere in music. That soul was not confined to any single genre or category. B.B. King absorbed this lesson deeply, bringing gospel emotion into his blues playing. Ray Charles proved that authenticity mattered more than category, that genuine feeling transcended all musical boundaries. The lesson was to be yourself completely, and the music will naturally find its proper place. Elvis Presley's cultural impact, the self-titled Elvis Presley album, represented an explosion that changed everything about American popular music. Released in 1956, Elvis's debut album brought black music to white teenagers across America and fundamentally changed American culture forever. B.B. King had complicated feelings about Elvis Presley. On one hand, Elvis borrowed very heavily from black blues and rhythm and blues artists. On the other hand, B.B. King also recognized Elvis's genuine love for the music and his undeniable natural talent. Elvis sang with real feeling and moved with physical abandon on stage. The album featured Elvis covering blues and rhythm and blues songs with tremendous energy and personal charisma. Songs like Blue Suede Shoes and I Got a Woman showed Elvis channeling the music he genuinely loved. His voice carried emotion even if some felt it lacked the depth of the original black artists who had first recorded those songs. B.B. King appreciated that Elvis helped blues-based music reach millions of people who might never have heard it otherwise. What Elvis taught B.B. King was complicated but ultimately important. Elvis demonstrated the enormous commercial potential of blues-influenced music, opening doors that had previously been closed to black artists. While B.B. King sometimes felt bittersweet about Elvis achieving massive success with music that had been created by black musicians, he also recognized opportunity in the situation. Elvis helped make blues-based music acceptable and popular everywhere in America. That development eventually helped B.B. King himself reach wider audiences and achieve the recognition he truly deserved. Louis Armstrong's foundational influence at the very top of B.B. King's list of influences was the Best of Louis Armstrong. This collection represented the foundation of everything important in American music. Louis Armstrong was not simply a trumpeter and singer. He was the person who taught American music how to swing, how to express feelings, how to communicate emotions through pure sound. His recordings from the 1920s onward showed B.B. King what music could accomplish when played with absolute genius and soul. Armstrong's trumpet sang more eloquently than most actual singers could manage. His voice was gravelly in texture, but absolutely full of joy and life. Armstrong's influence on B.B. King was profound and foundational. Louis Armstrong taught the entire world that individual expression mattered more than reading music perfectly from written notation. His trumpet solos were like conversations, full of personality and deep emotion. Songs like West End Blues and What a Wonderful World demonstrated Armstrong's remarkable range from virtuoso instrumentalist to beloved popular entertainer. B.B. King studied Armstrong's phrasing carefully, examining his timing and his emotional honesty in performance. What Louis Armstrong meant to B.B. King was simply everything. Armstrong showed that black musicians could be recognized as serious artists, not just entertainers performing for others. He proved that jazz and blues were serious art forms deserving respect and scholarly attention. Armstrong opened doors that had been closed, broke down barriers that had seemed permanent, and accomplished it all with grace and dignity. B.B. King modeled his entire career on Louis Armstrong's example. The lessons were to play with soul, treat audiences with genuine respect, and never compromise your personal integrity. Armstrong was the first and greatest teacher. Everything that B.B. King eventually achieved stood firmly on the foundation that Louis Armstrong had built. The legacy of learning Riley B. King became B.B. King by listening deeply and learning humbly from those who came before him. These 10 albums served as his teachers, showing him that blues could be sophisticated, that genuine feeling mattered more than sheer speed, that integrity was everything in music. B.B. King absorbed all these lessons and became the ambassador of blues to the entire world. He proved that one single note bent just right could communicate more than 1,000 notes played carelessly without thought. His career demonstrated that music is ultimately about connection, about touching something real in other people, about expressing truth through sound. The blues tradition continues because musicians like B.B. King learned from their predecessors and then taught the next generation. The music stays alive as long as someone plays it with truth and genuine feeling. B.B. King's legacy reminds us that greatness comes from respecting those who came before, learning their lessons, and then finding your own authentic voice within that tradition.